Hello, Roo Abrook. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you, Jenny. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm sitting here in the Art Salon in Bath with your beautiful work. Two pieces over here, one piece over here, and you've got the most amazing face behind you. Where are you? What are you doing?
I'm in my studio, which is up in the loft of my house. I work from home. It's my place of my little safety place, my sanctuary, where I do all my work all day long.
All day long. Yes, you artists do put in the hours, don't you? And it becomes, I suppose, an extension of you, the studio, doesn't it? It's
Oh,
where everything happens.
yeah, definitely. And I think it's a place where you can just go and get lost
Mm.
and do your thing and concentrate and have your time to yourself. Definitely, it's brilliant.
Mm.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, we met, goodness, I'm not going to say how many years on camera because that would be indelicate. But you were very, very early on in your career as an artist. And, when we first met, you were producing and you were selling, but you hadn't yet sort of scaled it up at that stage. And I think I came
No.
down and saw you in your loft and we talked about the work that was there. And then you went away and you spent a year putting together really that first collection as such, which
Yes.
sold out almost
Yeah.
immediately.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that was. I mean, that was great when you came down because I think I'd been doing a lot of commercial prints because I've come from a graphic background. So, and I think I didn't really have the confidence with my work and wasn't too sure what direction I was going in. So it was brilliant that you kind of came down and kind of helped me with that. And then I had that time, that whole year was wonderful to just experiment and find my voice really. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, it worked really well.
well, I think it touches a bit on what you said about the studio. To create art, whether it's a written work or a visual work, you need some headspace, don't you? And you need some time to absorb and articulate what you do. Now, what you do is very different to what I first saw. Your face is something now that is so important. It was in your first collection, and your collection was built around that, but you've really developed that and pushed that. And since we met, you've been shown all over the world now, haven't you? We've taken you to Hong Kong and all sorts of places. And there's something that you do with the face that seems to appeal to all sorts of people on all sorts of levels. So take me back to the basics. Take me back to the face. Why is the face so important to you?
I think it's always been important. As a child, I drew women's faces. May well have been Cinderella, I don't know, something like that. But I think it was always obsessing and looking at beauty. And that probably is where it started as a teenager, always drawing. My mum said I never stopped drawing. That was just the thing I loved doing. And I think the face, just as a woman myself, I connect to the female face. I'm interested in what that face can mean to the viewer. It opens those questions, doesn't it? You know, who's this woman? What's her life? What's everything about, really?
But I mean, all your faces are incredibly beautiful. They're quite highly stylized. The eyes tell a different story, but every mouth is always beautiful on your. What's the approach? What's your thinking? What are you trying to? Because each one has a personality, although it's stylized.
Yeah, I think the personality does come out, and it is when it's the way. I don't actually think I'm looking for that personality. I think once I start, I might look for a type of a face, or a face might appeal to me, and I'll work from that face. And I work quite often from vintage photographs or Edwardian postcards, and I have a good collection of those here in the studio. But I think it's just working from that, and then working in a very instinctive, organic way. That personality develops over the time working on the canvas, and it comes out. I don't think I actually plan it. I think it just happens. It's part of the process, part of my nature of working.
So the personality of your subject matter is developing through time. You don't start with a fixed image of what you're trying to do. You allow it to unfold.
And I think even if I have had quite a strong idea, it never ends up with that idea. It just always evolves and changes over those few days that I would spend making a piece. And sometimes I will work on more than one as well. I might work on two in the studio, so kind of go across from face to face as well. So, but I think it's interesting how I can work on the two and then actually make two quite different faces and two different personalities.
Yeah, I mean, the treatment of these two over here to this lady over here is quite distinctly different. I mean, this is fiesta time, isn't it? This is exuberant and fun and extraordinary. These are quite urban. These are quite almost sort of street, sort of graph kind of. It's, you know, you've treated them very differently. Talk me through them. This one and then this style over here.
I think the two with the butterflies are, I've probably done them more of a similar time, I think. But I think that's more looking at nature, and I think it has got a slight sort of urbanish to it. Even though I think the other one has as well, slightly. Yeah. But I think it's also the different types of personalities. The other two, even though they're soft, they've still got a darkness to them. They're quite sultry. That's how I feel. That's how I look at it. Whereas I think the other one is lighter and brighter, definitely. So I guess that those moods and personalities have come through those paintings at different times.
Because these two, I mean, I suppose why I said they've got a sort of more urban edge is because their backgrounds have got spray paint or they're canvas, but they're painted, then they're sprayed. There's multiple, I mean, there's multiple layers on both sides, but that gives those a little bit more darker or urban edge to me.
Yes. Yes.
But the one thing that's common between them is your use of text, and actually is common in many things, because we've got your books as well that you've talked me through. Why is text important? Because it's everywhere and often leads to your titles, actually.
It does, and I use antique music paper quite often, and the reason I use that is that's something that would have been, it had a great value of the time, and it would have been something that would have been used in a social event and would have been, you know, quite treasured to have that music paper for the piano player to play from and for people to sing to. But now it has absolutely no value, really. No one wants that. Who would want that? So I'm using old paper, and you can see the tear marks on it and the marks from use. And I think it's that looking at time and something that's unwanted and bringing that into a modern situation as something that is now wanted. So I guess I'm playing around almost like with a timeline. And a woman aging, you know, bringing that into it as well. So it's something it's not perfect, it's imperfect, but making it beautiful and tactile through the work.
Because correct me if I'm wrong here, I should probably not do this on camera, but I remember a picture that you did, and in the droplets, it was made up of paper from a friend of yours, grandfather, who had lots of ordnance survey maps or something that she found.
Right, yes.
And that is a way of sort of bringing backwards to the forwards, is bringing that history line through, that time, like breaking the timeline and making it relevant, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's something that I find, I mean, I enjoy doing that. I enjoy working with those materials. And also I think, because I didn't answer properly, did I, about the text, I think the text is of that time as well. You know, the titles of the songs, they are very idealistic about beauty and about romantic relationships, and I like that, because in a way it seems old-fashioned, but actually those words still resonate with people. Those titles still mean things to people today.
Well, I think this one's is it I Love You to the Moon or something, which is you know, it's
which is delightful, isn't it?
It is a lovely, and it's still relevant today, but it sort of does connect us back to our, you know, previous generations, doesn't it?
Yes,
so they're unique, your work. I mean, they're very, when you see a Roo Abrook, you know a Roo Abrook. You can tell. What's your inspirations? You know, artists, life inspirations. What sort of feeds your soul?
I think that it's anything and everything, but not in a weird way. I feel that my inspiration is almost like I've got a bag and it's filled with all these experiences, whether it be from a long time ago, and I randomly go in there and pick things out. That's how I feel, they just pop out. I mean, one thing that I'm mad about is Liberty fabrics, and I know exactly why. It's as a child going to my friend's mum's house, and she had a beautiful conservatory with white peacock chairs, and all the cushions were covered in Liberty fabric. And that's from when I was 12 years old. So it's interesting, that's in that bag, isn't it? And I pull it out every now and then. I'm inspired by the colour of a fabric or something like that. So I think that goes through from being out in nature to all sorts of things in life. Yeah. Quite random.
No, not at all. I mean, it's funny you should say that. I'd forgotten how much the designers of the Liberty fabrics had influenced me, and because often they are very detailed and they're quite exuberant, and the colours were always extraordinary. Beautiful. Yes, they were something very special and often very female, actually, and they have been worn by men, and it to great success as well in shirts and all sorts of other things. So it's interesting, it's not always just other painters or other fine artists, let's say. No, I think one thing that has inspired me, which is completely different to Liberty fabric, is that from growing up in the 80s, my teen years, was listening, I guess it would be called post-punk, listening to sort of alternative music, reading ID in the Face magazine, and I think it's the collage from the fanzines that I've been really inspired. I wouldn't say so much now, but they're in there, they're ingrained in me. It was something I was really interested in. And then I think that gives a nod to the sort of Dada collage artists. And then to Linda Sterling, who worked on a lot of some of the, I think it's a Buzzcocks poster of the lady with the iron on the head. I think it's those ideas and that kind of quite graphical collage use is in there. It's in there somewhere. I know my work's softer than that, but it's kind of, I guess, it's not that I'm consciously thinking of that, but it's something that's been around me that has inspired me. So you've sort of absorbed that energy, and it's coming out through your work.
And I think also with that movement is that I was really interested in fashion as well, and I'd make my own clothes, and it's that do-it-yourself ethic. And I think as an artist, we have to have that. If we don't get on and do it, nothing happens, does it? So I think it's that do-it-yourself, being prepared to work really hard is really important as well. And I think that's what I probably took from that movement of time.
But it's interesting because I mean, we don't need to go into detail how your work is made, but it is made by layering, isn't it? It's these layers. It's a bit like your layers of experience and visual experiences and emotional experiences. It is layered. I mean, when you go up close, those droplets are standing proud of canvas, you know, you can go right in and come out again. So it's interesting that that's another way in which your experiences are being reflected in your work.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I do love working with layers, and I quite often will use like a tissue paper as well to then give transparency. And some of the paints will be block paint, some will be transparent. So it is that seeing what's behind the paint as well is really important.
And seeing what's behind that lady's eyes.
Yes. We'll never know.
We'll never know. We can only guess. Roo, it's been an absolute delight talking to you. Thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Catalogue is out shortly, and I hope everybody enjoys it. You'll have your books in there and also your canvas work, so it'll be a lovely blend. Thank you,
thanks, Jenny.
And until next time, bye now.
Thank you, Jenny. Bye-bye.